Hello again. Russia has laid out the future of the country's naval plans. The release of the details coincided with the annual Navy Day celebrations. Well, the new naval code sparked quite a reaction in Western headlines. But Brian Becker from the anti-war answer coalition thinks Russia has every reason to realign.
This is a doctrine of self-defense. The Russian government states it so. They're not carrying out large-scale military maneuvers on America's borders. It's a countermeasure by the Russian government and the Russian Navy in its western area in the Atlantic Ocean, as a consequence of the announcement by the Pentagon of the new U.S. military doctrine, which now identifies Russia as the leading threat to the United States. I should say it coincides with large-scale U.S.-led military maneuvers close by to Russia on its western borders and in its western waters. So it's a predictable response by the Russian government.
Britain's Prime Minister might bring forward the referendum on the country's EU membership. It's reported that it could be held next year instead of 2017. David Cameron seemed uncertain about the vote on a number of occasions in recent years.
Of course, Britain could make her own way in the world, outside the EU if we chose to do so. So could any other member state. But the question we'll have to ask ourselves is this: is that the very best future for our country?
We'll hold that referendum by the end of 2017 on that basis.
I don't want an in-out referendum because I'm not happy with us leaving the European Union. And yes, we will deliver that in-out referendum on our future in Europe.
The PM first raised the idea to hold a referendum soon after coming to power 5 years ago. But at the moment, the public's divided over whether to stay or go. Journalist and broadcaster Neil Clark explains why there's a growing desire to speed up the vote.
One of the reasons why David Cameron might be keener to have the referendum earlier rather than later, in other words in 2016 and not in 2017, is because I think that by 2017 and 2018 the government's unpopularity I think will be much greater than it will be in 2016 because of the impact of the swinging cuts that the government is introducing. People have looked at Greece and they've seen really the bullying by the EU, which is supposed to be for democracy, the EU, and yet we saw very clearly the bullying that went on against the Greek people, against the Greek government, to accept these very onerous terms. And so I think that the support for the EU actually has fallen because of that.
And indeed, the standoff between Athens and the EU has made other member countries question the bloc's tough methods.
Είναι αλήθεια. Σε συνθήκες χρηματοπιστωτικής ασφυξίας και εκβιασμού,
es el totalitarismo financiero. Lo que destruye a Europa es la arrogancia del gobierno alemán. Lo que destruye a Europa es la capacidad, la incapacidad de ciertos gobernantes.
David Cameron also admits to frustration at the growing pressure on his country coming from Brussels. Here are the areas he believes are most affected by the EU's influence.
Britain, I know you want this sorted, so I will go to Brussels. I will not take no for an answer. I'm the first Prime Minister to veto a treaty, the first Prime Minister to cut the European budget. And yes, I pulled us out of those European bailout schemes as well. We do not require instruction from judges in Strasbourg